Welcome everybody to another episode of Haven of Horror. But I'm Subject A79. This is TheDayGhost. It's good to see you, buddy. It's been a couple weeks since we got to record together.
Yeah, I've been real crazy busy lately, but I'm
Yeah,
glad to be here.
but we're swapping things around a little bit because I want Austin to be here more. I like talking horror with this guy, even though we disagree on quite a few things. But it's okay. He's just a fraud. No. But Austin, we're here to talk about my favorite entry in a franchise that I admittedly don't care a whole lot about. Uh, Halloween, if you couldn't tell by his shirt. But we're talking about not the original, that comes later. We're talking about the 2018 sequel, and I can understand why you'd be confused that we're not talking about Halloween or Halloween, but we're instead talking about Halloween. That joke will never get old, by the way.
Wait till they make another Halloween. That's when it'll start to get old.
Yeah. So
And when it's like 2048 and we drag like a 90-year-old Jamie Lee Curtis back to do like a reboot where we only do the first movie, and it's like Michael comes for her at the old age home. That's when it'll start to get like, okay, I get it. There's Halloween, 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 and Halloween.
So Halloween 2018 is the soft reboot slash sequel to the original film. And I guess I would only use soft reboot because it reboots all those sequels out of existence, which I'm fine with. I don't like any of them, other than okay. I haven't seen 3 yet, but I don't like any of the Michael Myers sequels except 4 is okay. Like it's not the worst thing ever. Um, and it brings it back to the focus of Michael Myers is the Shape, the boogeyman, and Laurie Strode. Um, I know you like this movie as well, not as quite as well as I do, but I think we're both in agreement this is the best Michael Myers sequel.
Yeah, I mean that's not saying anything because I don't really like any of those movies. Like the original is fantastic. I love it. I really like 3. I think 4 is like,
It's
and
okay.
then after that, I don't really like any of the other sequels except for Resurrection because it's hilarious.
Now, I will
But
admit, I like the third act of H2O, but it's everything before that is just like,
oh, see, I think the third act of H2O sucks, but
eh.
we'll get there one day.
Yeah. So tell us about your experience with Halloween 2018. How many times have you seen this movie now?
I don't know, maybe like 10 times? I'm not sure just offhand. I've seen this movie quite a few times.
So what? How do you feel about this movie as a sequel to that film?
I think it mostly gets everything right. I think this is a very flawed movie, but I think it gets what I want it to get right, and then like stuff I don't care as much about, it's maybe not as good at. My like, I guess the only real thing when it comes to like Michael Myers, I think we lose some of the more like lurkier side of Michael Myers, but at the same time, like I like what they do with him fine enough that it's not that big of a deal.
Okay. So this is I didn't expect us to disagree this quickly. But one of the things that drives me nuts about the original movie that I like in this one, he's supposed to be just evil. Like he doesn't have a purpose, he doesn't have a goal, he's just evil. Why does he spend the entire movie stalking Laurie in that original movie? I like that he just moves through town and just like does things. He's not stalking some girl for half the movie, you know what I mean?
Well, I like that in the original. I mean, we'll get there again in a few weeks, but it's like his eyes just kind of like lock on like the first person he sees, and he just spends all of his time manipulating everything like to be just like perfectly right, and then he just like when the time comes to act, then it's like that boom, 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 boom. But he kind of like sets things up in place first,
Okay.
which we lose to an extent. But it's like I said, it's not the biggest deal. Um, and I think overall, this is the closest. Sorry, this is the closest we get to kind of bringing back that boogeyman sense.
And this is the first time that because I've never disagreed with him being the boogeyman, but this movie is the first time I get the sense like, oh, that's what they mean when they say he's the boogeyman. Like he just moves, he just goes, and it's complicated, right? Because I can't necessarily hold it against that original movie because I think part of the issue is the budget. They're not allowed to be as big as I think you have to be with that kind of concept to show that he really is just a force because you have to focus in on a small cast, right? Whereas in this movie, they have a little bit more money and it's more modern, so you can be a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I disagree because the original's tighter and it's got more of a because it's an update of the boogeyman kind of legend, where it's the story you tell to your kids where it's like, oh, if you're bad, the boogeyman comes for you. And it's basically just like an updated version of that, as opposed to this where it's just kind of Michael Myers goes around from person to person killing them. While there's more of like a reason in the sense that, like from a thematic point of view, to the original and how it's handled, and that like her two friends that killed, they're the impure ones, while Laurie is like the pure girl, and that's the reason why she lives and they die.
yeah, I
But
mean
again, we'll
that's
get there eventually.
yeah, we'll get there. It's hard to talk about this movie without talking about the original, of course, because they're very connected. Something I did notice on this last watch through, and spoilers for the next video where we're going to record Halloween Kills. I think a big part of the issue with these movies is the fact that these people love Michael too much. There are times where it feels influenced by the like icon that Michael has become, and they forget that in this timeline he killed like four people and then just stopped. You know what I mean? They're almost too reverential to him because he's a slasher icon, but in this timeline he hasn't really done all that much. And they kind of
Yeah, that
mention that, but it's also kind of dropped.
yeah. I mean, I always thought when they mentioned in this movie, it was more so, because they're talking about like how you see a lot more like gore and stuff, and like a lot worse things than just killing a few people. Like even just in the news, for example, um, it's like it's supposed to be like, why is he so bad? And then obviously they find out.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I think both of these movies have the issue of they want to acknowledge everything while only acknowledging one thing.
I almost would have left Halloween 2 in the canon and then just retconned the sibling thing if you want to get rid of that. Because if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I watched that movie because that movie's boring. But Loomis only says that to one person, right? Like Laurie doesn't actually know at the end of that movie that they're related.
We had Nurse Chambers that tells Loomis about it.
Yeah. You could have
Um,
easily have retconned that out and just left Halloween 2 in.
yeah, I can't remember. Well, I mean, we'll get there with kills, but there's a weird thing with Halloween 2 in that movie. Should we get into like the plot of this movie?
Yeah, so the plot of this movie is apparently after the end of Halloween 1978, Michael just let himself be captured and has been in prison for 40 years, or in an institute for 40 years. And then these like blogger types doing a story on that night, um, come and like talk to him and try to get him to talk. And then they also go to Jamie Lee Curtis, which is how we're reintroduced to Laurie Strode, who is a psychotic nightmare in this movie. Uh, um, Michael gets loose because of a bus crash and rampages through Haddonfield, leaving it up to Laurie to stop him again.
Yeah, because she's basically the new Loomis in this movie.
Yeah, and like, don't get me wrong, I love her performance. I'm not entirely sold on the take, but it's also like, what do you do? You know?
Yeah, I just like it because I don't know, I like stories that have a like you can't go home after this kind of um reaction, if you know what I mean, where it's like you had this like horrific, like traumatizing experience, you don't just get to go back and have like a normal life now.
Mhm.
So I really like that aspect of it, especially because I don't know, she's too like cool and collected in H2O, for example. Like that's just kind of, oh,
Is
she
she?
became a wine mom. Absolutely.
She's like an obsessive mother in that movie and changed her name and ran away.
She changes her name and runs away, and then it's just kind of like an overbearing mom. Like that's just kind of it. And
Okay.
I don't know, I don't think it's enough. Like I prefer this version. Absolutely.
I think I do too, but I I think the other version is almost more realistic. It's just they don't take it far enough, right? Like it's more natural for me to believe that she just like left town, changed her name, uh tried to start over, and then Michael comes back and she has to face her demons.
See,
I
with the
think the
exception of
skeleton
like,
there is
see, I think
good,
with the
but
exception of, having like booby trapped your house and stuff. Maybe it like goes a little too far into movie logic there, but I think just the way she's broken is way more realistic in this one, especially in the scene where she goes to speak to her family and like can't talk and just breaks down. That's 100% how anyone would be after that.
yeah, maybe. And I do like the relationship with her daughter in this. It's much better handled than the weird thing with Josh Hartnett and H2O. I guess it just when you think about like if you think about it in a larger sense, of course, it doesn't seem like that much. It was like what, an hour? But
The
when you
actual
stop and
chase
think
part,
about it,
but like her friends all died.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you stop and think about the details that this character would have went through, I think I can buy that a little bit more. And I think that's a big issue with me in a lot of movies is I don't think about the small details, right? I just look at the overall picture of what's happening.
The Ed Wood approach, yeah. The
Oh,
films
yeah.
aren't about the small the small details, it's about the big picture.
That's why I don't make movies. So how do you feel about Laurie's daughter and her granddaughter? I like them quite a bit.
Yeah, I wish we had more to do with her daughter, but I like her overall. And I like her granddaughter quite a bit.
Well, and spoilers, that's a problem with both of these movies.
We'll get there.
um, yeah, I mean, and it is nice that this movie keeps it simple after the ridiculousness of the Cult of Thorn trilogy, after the nonsense of H2O and Resurrection, after the Rob Zombie movies, however you feel about those. Um, especially two, like, two, side tangent here. But you know me, I'm a bigger fan of Rob Zombie than you are. I really wish he'd stop trying to be like the next Stanley Kubrick or something, because everything after Halloween, Halloween 2 and everything on has tried to be this like psychological horror movie. Um and they're all about the same as fucking Halloween.
Ugh.
Yeah. But anyway, it's nice that they kept it simple. They get Michael for the most part, and the main characters are likable. I don't really care about some of the side characters, and we lose a couple of them as the story progresses. But
Yeah, you don't say. Uh, no, but
in more ways than one, we lose them.
mhm. Yeah, no, I think that's what this film does best. Is it's got they have a good take on Michael, and they have a good take on the three Strodes. And then outside of that, it's all just kind of, it's okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, like, I don't know, the sheriff never really left a huge impression on me. I don't, the doctor is fine up until the twist, which sucks.
The sheriff left an impact on me mostly because it's that actor. I've seen him in quite a few things, and I just naturally like that guy. Um,
Okay, I don't
he's
know
in
him offhand.
he's in Remember the Titans. Oh, okay. I'm sure he's been in other stuff. It's just one of those like, oh, I know that guy.
Mm,
Um, but
fair
yeah, I like
enough.
him quite a bit.
Um, I really like, we get like the kind of obligatory babysitter segment.
So
And
good.
yeah, she's great. The kid's great. Because that's another thing with this movie is that its usage of comedy is very hit or miss. There's a lot of places where it goes too far. And the kid part, I think, should be one of them, but it doesn't bother me as much.
That kid's awesome.
Yeah, like I prefer stuff like that over like the two cops talking about their Vietnamese sandwich, which is just like, what's this doing here?
I
Like,
think the only one that really stands out to me is the peanut butter gag.
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, because you said the cops talking about their sandwich.
Oh, is there like another thing I'm not thinking of? Peanut butter?
Yeah, the dad.
Oh, okay. So like a whole, yeah, okay. Well, it's because with the Vietnamese sandwich thing, it's he's like, I like my peanut butter and jam. I got my Vietnamese sandwich. And it's like,
So the
ugh.
sheriff is in the. He's actually in the 2004 Punisher.
Oh, he is. That's right.
Yeah. But like he's in the. He's one of those actors where it's like, oh, I've seen that movie. Yeah, he's that guy.
Character actor, yeah.
But yeah, you don't remember that I got peanut butter on my dick.
Yeah, yeah, no, there's just moments where it's like, didn't
You
need
can
that.
tell Danny McBride was involved.
Yeah, when that one step too far, reel it back, and they won't. So that's good to know.
Well, yeah. Um, this is gonna be fun to edit. Also, I just want to take a moment as well to say I love the poster for this movie. It's so simple, just the
Oh,
one with
just like
like
the yeah.
the mask. I miss when posters were simple and like,
I
here's
mean, it's
red.
no, but it's pretty good.
Okay, so I'm not trying to insult that poster because I do love that poster, but I don't know. I think there's just something about the mask, you know.
Have you ever noticed there's like a face in the hand?
I have not. I have not. That's
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's great.
I will say though, I mean that is one of the most iconic posters ever
Yep,
made.
tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Speaking of the like pumpkin, the intro titles to this movie are excellent.
They're kind of a companion to that first movie, right? Where the first movie is the pumpkin rotting, and this is the pumpkin.
Well, it's just a pumpkin.
Oh, okay. Am I
Um,
thinking of Halloween
because
too?
I think
Because there's one
so.
where the pumpkin's rotting, and then the pumpkin regenerates.
It's this one where it's rotted and it regenerates.
Oh, okay.
Because 1 to 3, I'll have like a pumpkin, like intro, and then 4, 5, 6, and like the zombie films, H2O and Resurrection, I'll drop it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So the other thing I kind of wish they hadn't done is, and I have the same issue with the first one. I wish we'd never see Michael's face, any part of it.
So what I like about when you see his face in the original is that he's just a guy. Like there's nothing that like he's not disfigured. He's not like there's not. He's just a person. Like it's just you could see him walking down the street. Like he could be anybody.
But see, I think that works better with the boogeyman motif if you don't know. You know what I mean?
Possibly, but I think that's what works about it is that anyone can be the boogeyman. Like it's not, you know
You
what I
heard it
mean?
here,
Like
folks. Austin is the
Michael,
boogeyman.
exactly. Like Michael Myers could be anybody.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. I got to tell you something when we finish recording this because it made me laugh. But anyway,
Um, they are smart in giving him a dead eye, though. That's like the first time.
well, and there's a couple of things like that too. I saw a thing the other day that pointed out if you look really closely in 2018, his mask still has the hole right here, where she stabs him in the neck.
Oh, I've never noticed that. Interesting.
Yeah. It's just nice, and you know me, obviously, I'm a big fan of slashers in general, and I know you are to a degree, but you care more about the movie's quality. I'm just there for the kills.
Yeah.
It is nice to see somebody who's just like gets what makes slashers fun, while also being able to tell a semi decent story. And I think there is a lot to say here with like PTSD and trauma and overcoming trauma. Um, and I like movies that get nuts. Like I'm a big fan of the Chucky movies, and those movies get insane. Like the last movie is literally a cult of Chuckies. It's amazing. But this movie made me appreciate a more simpler slasher story that we haven't had in years.
Hmm. Yeah, Halloween, the like beauty of the original Halloween is how simple it is. Like it's a very simple idea, like just done perfectly. And like I said, I have issues with this, but it's going more back to it is like a simpler idea. It's more complex than that original film is in terms of just like what's happening, because it's like there's a lot more moving parts. Of course, you got to go bigger for your sequel.
Yeah, I mean it's expected. Like if a sequel isn't bigger, I'm gonna be at least somewhat disappointed. So I guess one of the last things we should talk about, because it demands to be talked about, is the
The
score for this
twist.
movie.
Oh, the
Um,
score is perfect.
oh, if you want to bring up the twist, yeah.
Oh, well, we can talk about score first.
So obviously this is done by John Carpenter. The first time he's done a score for one of these movies since what, two?
Read.
Oh, I keep forgetting about three. Three shouldn't count. It's should be just titled Season of the Witch.
It's the best sequel, though.
We'll see when I watch it. I am determined to watch it this month though.
Yeah, you should.
Um,
It's great.
so first, the first score he's done for one of these since the '80s, and man, it is not my type of music, but I love it. I'm not big into the instrumental, just electronic sound, and I'm not really a film score guy. But I gotta tell you, that main theme, the remix of it, has been on my playlist since you showed it to me.
You mean so? Wait, since I showed it to you.
You sent it to me like 2 or 3 year ago now.
Oh, okay. Um, do you mean Halloween Triumphant, the one they play at the end, where it's like got the electric guitar mixed
No,
in?
it's just the 2018 theme, but uh, it's that original theme, but he's mixed in some different notes to it.
Oh, okay.
I do want to re-listen to Halloween Triumphant though.
So I'm trying to think. I think it's more so just the original theme, though, because it's just like the
No, he's definitely changed it up a little bit.
yeah. I
Or I
mean,
guess I shouldn't
he
changing it up,
always.
but he added he added more of a beat to it.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah, because the original Halloween theme is just like a beat his dad taught him on the bongos when he was learning how to play them. Like it was just like a simple like do do like just like a simple like beat that was like helped him learn how to play drums.
and it's brilliant. I mean that is we'll talk about it more when we get to that movie, but that is the other thing because I rewatched both 1978 and 2018 in anticipation for Kills, and that was the thing that stuck out to me is I love the way he uses music in this, especially that chase music. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, the Shape Chases Allison. Yeah, that's the best piece of music for the 2018 movie.
Yeah.
But famously, of course, 78, when they watched it without the score, people were like, ah, like this movie sucks, like it's awful. And then they put in the theme and it was like, oh, or just not the theme, like the music. And it was like,
Oh
oh
yeah,
my
the
God,
music.
like,
That same goes for that. Is like I was watching. I was like, I don't really care about anything like happening in this movie. I'm engaged somewhat, but that score just makes me want to keep paying attention because it's so good.
yeah, no, he's great. I've been listening to him basically all week.
I'm
Um,
interested to see what he does for kills or ends, whatever the next one's gonna be. I don't know.
yeah, because both this movie and the kills both add like a piece of music that I think is one of the best things he's made. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're not really into Halloween or into horror movies, I don't know why you're watching this channel, but anyway, check out his score on Spotify. It's amazing. I like most of his scores. I'm not crazy about the Assault on Precinct or not Assault on Precinct 13, Escape from New York score. I don't think it works for that movie, but that's neither here nor there. Score alone, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever rating we use on here, it doesn't matter. So you mentioned the twist, and I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about it. It's been a couple days. The twist is a plot gimmick, and I think this movie lives and dies, or not a plot gimmick, but a plot gimme. And I think this movie lives and dies on whether you're going to be able to give it that. What do you think?
I don't know, it's very cheap. Like they wrote themselves into a corner and went, this happens.
Yeah, fuck it. It does
And
have one of the coolest kills in the movie, though.
yeah, where Michael stomps in his head. Yeah,
It's
that
so
is pretty
cool.
good. But yeah, like I don't know, it just kind of happens, and then we move on. It's we need Michael to be like how he was in the original, but we also live in a world where these movies exist. So we also need him and like Jamie Lee Curtis to fight at the end, and we just
Okay.
like I don't
Yeah,
know.
I agree. Um, so let me ask you this then, because you have less patience for nostalgia in movies than I do. How do you feel about all the shots where it's a recreation of the original but with Laurie Strode instead of Michael?
So um, no, I'm glad you brought that up because for me that's less like obviously it is nostalgia, but I think it's nostalgia in the way that like Terminator 2 is, in the sense that you're using that to be like, look, like parallel these two characters and to like look, Laurie like is the shape. You know what I mean?
Because they do,
So
and they're consistent with it, right? Because it goes through all the whole movie,
mhm. Well, one of the last shots with the two of them is Michael standing there and then her face lights up in the background.
which is my favorite shot in that original movie, where she's just like standing there, and then you slowly see Michael come up.
It's wonderful. Just a dimmer switch, that's all it was, but it's great.
Well, Austin, I think we're running out of time on this one. Is there anything else you want to cover on this?
Um, um, I think some of the like kill stuff are pretty good in this. Like you get the two cops where they're like the one's like head's decapitated and he's got the flashlight in it to resemble a jack-o'-lantern.
Mhm.
That's pretty sweet. Then you got the kid that's like his face is impaled. That section also is great where you have like the motion sensor light. It's a really good just use of suspense in this movie. Oh, how do you feel about the climax?
I love it. Um, it's one of the few slasher movies where I don't feel they had to depower the villain at the end. Because that's a big issue I have with slashers, no matter how much I love them. You
Like
build
a
up
big issue with H2O.
you build up these monsters to a certain point where they're just like unstoppable juggernauts. Jason, for example, because that's my go-to slasher. Throughout that movie, he's like a force of nature, a force of anger. He just kills people. But then you get to the end, and oh, the final girl has to come out triumphant, and now he's suddenly, he's not quite as powerful, but he's still strong. And I don't feel like this movie ever depowers Michael.
Yeah, I think they do a good job of Laurie's never fully in control. She's basically like always on the defensive. I think my only gripe with it in is that we spend too much time with him alone sometimes, and just the image of him bumbling around the house by himself is awkward. Like no matter how you stretch it, like that's awkward. Um, and yeah, so like I would cut that. Um, I really like the kind of smile you son of a bitch Jaws line, where
Gotcha, you son of a
where the
bitch.
yeah, I like that part. And the ending I think is just really good.
Mhm. So let me ask you this before we move on to ratings. If Halloween Ends does end up being bad, do you think you could separate this as an ending to this series? Because they clearly wrote this as a if we don't get to make another, we have a somewhat ending.
Yeah, because I think if they knew going in that they were gonna make a trilogy, this is the end, right? You put your first movie would maybe end with like Laurie in somebody else's house, like confronting Michael while he's on his rampage, as opposed to this, and you could maybe make it a little cleaner. Um, but I guess I don't know. My uneasiness with like that kind of stuff is just I think the original has a perfect ending, and no matter what you do with it moving forward, you always take away from that. No matter how like good you do it.
That's fair. Yeah, because I was thinking about this the other day. If Kills does or if Halloween Ends does end up being bad, which I still have some faith in that movie, but we'll get to that in the Kills video. Um, I think that this movie has a good ending in that it's ambiguous whether he lives or dies, but Laurie clearly survived.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, it's playing it close enough to the original. She makes it. You don't know where he is.
yeah.
Obviously, it's not to the same degree, but I think it's close enough. Hmm.
Well, Austin, I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. Like I said, it's my favorite Halloween film. Obviously, it is super reliant on the original, and no disrespect to the original; it's a classic for a reason. But I think this has my preferred take on Michael, and it's got the kills to back it up. Which the slasher fan in me, I need the kills. I need the violence. I'm a heathen, I know. But what about you? What is your final ranking for this movie?
I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. Very good.
All right. Well, Austin, thanks for talking some Halloween for with me. I think this is the big franchise we don't agree on some, but we agree on others. We both agree that all those original Michael sequels just go away.
Yeah.
Thank you
No,
guys for
we need to
watching.
let it die
Thanks
tonight.
for watching, guys, and we will be back shortly with a Halloween Kills review.
Bye.